everybody. I'm Janet Fletcher. I'm a food writer in California, and I'm the publisher of a blog about cheese called Planet Cheese. If you don't already receive it, I hope you'll go to my website, janetfletcher.com, and sign up. It's free. It comes in your inbox every week, and it's just a quick read about new cheeses, cheese people, recipes related to cheese. Hope you'll enjoy it. I'm also a volunteer with a new grassroots movement called Victory Cheese. Victory Cheese is modeled after the old Victory Gardens of World War II, and it is intended to help out our specialty cheesemakers in this country. They're really struggling right now. They have lost a lot of restaurant business. They've lost food service business. And you and I, when we go into a store and shop for cheese these days, we're choosing different cheeses than we used to. So it's really been a hard few months for America's artisan cheesemakers. And some of us in the cheese business have come together to help out these cheesemakers by creating Victory Cheese. And one thing we're doing is creating Victory Cheese boxes to help encourage you to purchase the cheese and keep this cheese moving through the pipeline. I've created a dozen Victory Cheese boxes, and they're for sale online with igourmet.com, the online cheese merchant. You purchased a Victory Cheese box. You bought Cheers for Raw Milk cheese, and it came to you in this little muslin bag, 3 cheeses, all raw milk, made with raw milk, and I thought it would be a good idea for us to go through them together pretty quickly. Just give you a little tutorial on these 3 cheeses so that you know what you're tasting before you taste. So let's get started. We have 3 beauties in front of us. You know, raw milk cheese, they're fewer and fewer in number these days, both in the US and in Europe. It's just getting, these cheeses come under a lot of scrutiny from the government regulators, so fewer and fewer cheesemakers want to be bothered. They are safe. All of these cheeses are aged more than 60 days, which is the regulation. And they're made with raw milk, which means milk that's not been pasteurized. And for a lot of cheesemakers, that's just like the only way to make cheese. They believe firmly that raw milk produces more flavor potential in the finished cheese. So all of these are made with raw milk. And our first one, let's start with this Gouda. This is Marika Gouda from Wisconsin. Marika Penterman is the owner and the cheesemaker. Marika is Dutch, and she and her husband came over from Holland quite a while ago when they were young. They wanted to start a dairy farm, and they couldn't afford the land in Holland, so they came to Wisconsin where the land was more affordable. They started farming dairy cows. They have about 400 cows, and some years into their American experience, they realized they couldn't find any Gouda that was as good as what they knew from home, of course, where they say Gouda. And so Marika started making it, and she went back to Holland several times to learn the techniques, and now she is just a Gouda star. She wins ribbons nonstop. And she's famous at the American Cheese Society for every time she wins a ribbon, which she does a lot. She goes up on stage to get a ribbon and she dances. So she's adorable, and her cheese is delicious. This is her, I would say, unflavored Gouda, basic Gouda. She does a lot of Goudas that have seasonings in them like cumin, fenugreek, which is very traditional. But this is the plain one. It's aged 6 to 9 months, and it is very creamy and very sweet. It's like it's almost like a piece of candy. It's very caramel-like. Marika Gouda from Wisconsin. Just melts in your mouth. Our next cheese is a pretty new cheese to the market, but from a very old creamery. The creamery is Grafton Village in Vermont, and you probably know Grafton for its cheddars. That's what it's famous for. Grafton is more than 100 years old, although it's at some point the creamery burned down, and for many decades there was no cheese being made at Grafton. It pretty much vanished as a business. Then in the 60s it was brought back to life, and it's now operated by a foundation. So the profits from Grafton go to support the Wyndham Foundation, and they do good works in that community. This is unusual for Grafton because this is a sheep cheese. All their other cheeses are cow's milk and cheddar-like, and this is modeled after an alpine cheese, a mountain cheese from France or Switzerland, but made with sheep's milk. So it's unusual in that respect because the mountain cheeses of France and Switzerland, the so-called alpine cheeses, are almost all cow's milk. And so this is an alpine style sheep cheese from Vermont, and I'm going to just scrape it to give it kind of a fresh, freshen up that face of it. And this is raw milk, but it's not farmstead. It is called Bear Hill, and it's 100% sheep's milk, very firm. It's aged about anywhere from, I think, a minimum of 5 months, but up to maybe 10 or 12 months. This feels like a more mature piece. Look how brittle it is. Very nutty. A wonderful kind of alpine sweetness from those alpine cultures, and you know, it's dry but yet creamy. It's got a beautiful texture, kind of a sandy texture, and it's just filling my mouth with nuttiness. I love this cheese. This is a cheese you once you start, you can't stop. So that's Bear Hill from Grafton, a new cheese. And our last cheese, look at this beauty. Look at this gorgeous natural rind. This is from Washington State, from Cascadia Creamery. They make only raw milk cheeses, and this is their Glacier Blue. They're only blue. Really interesting backstory. This is from in the Cascade Mountains, near a lake called Trout Lake. And I'm told by the owners, John and Marcy Schumann, that back in the 40s, the government collaborated with some people in the area around Trout Lake to create a gorgonzola, a Roquefort type of cheese. There are natural caves in this area because it's a volcanic area, and there are these natural underground caves that are perfect for maturing blue cheese. So it has a history in this area of at least trying to produce blue cheese. This effort with the government never really went anywhere. But when John and Marcy Schumann settled in the area, they thought it would be fun to try to mature blue cheeses in the natural caves on their property. So they buy the milk from a neighbor who's just down the road, and then they create this Glacier Blue, which this is a fairly old wheel. It's quite firm, and I can see a lot of bluing in here. I think I've never seen a piece of Glacier Blue that has quite this much bluing. It's a very mellow blue. It's not a pungent, strong, peppery blue. They like to call it a gateway blue. So if you have been kind of hesitant about blues, or you know people who think they don't like blue cheese, this is a great place to start. It's 100% cow's milk, and it is usually very nutty and creamy and kind of like a cracker aroma to me. And we'll see. I got those cave smells. Yeah, it's very buttery and nutty, and not a super peppery piece of cheese. So I think you're going to like that one. Great with honey or dried fruits, and a good strong beer or dessert wine. So we've had 3 raw milk cheeses here. I hope you will enjoy them, and I hope you'll also go on iGourmet and look for the other 11 Victory cheese collections that I created. Every time you order a Victory cheese box, iGourmet donates $10 to World Central Kitchen, and you are helping support America's artisan cheesemakers. Thank you so much.